right? All right, so I have a longer cable here. So I want to tell you about what the heck has been happening, all right? So, gosh, I don't know where to begin. Let's say, all right, let's talk about 2019. It was the month of March, okay? So there were these number of events that occurred, all right? I believe it was, let me see, all right. Absolutely, it was March 31st, okay? It was absolutely March 31st when Nipsey Hussle was murdered, okay? So that represents that date. Nipsey Hussle was murdered that day. Within 7 days, to be accurate, I looked at the dates. I believe it was 5 days afterwards when I looked in, 5 days after Nipsey Hussle was murdered, I looked into the sky. I was going to work one day and I saw a cross in the sky. Now, what I want you to remember about this, what I'm saying here is that this cross that I saw in the sky, you see, it looked to me like chemtrails, okay, or contrails. But usually chemtrails or contrails are made behind airplanes. And there were no airplanes in this region, in this particular city where I saw these lines. So that's the big mystery right there. How did this cross form in the sky, and how is it that I saw it? Like, that is a mystery right there. I could stop this lecture right here and just say, explain that to me, okay? And really, this is me crying out for help. I need someone to explain to me why I saw this cross in the desert that particular day. Let me give you some more information. I lived there for 7 months, and never had I seen anything like this ever. But it was within 7 days after Nipsey's murder that I did see this cross in the sky, right? Now, of course, we live in a capitalist society, and so when I saw what I saw, rather than rush to say that it was a miracle, I had a smirk on my face. I said to myself, hey, I've got a story to tell. And I've got a story to sell, right? This is a capitalist society. So my goal since 2019 has been to perfect the retelling of my story in order to sell this story to someone, all right? You can go to www.iSee109.store. That's my online store. Go there to buy my story. Buy the book. It includes pictures of exactly what I'm talking about, so that my experience will become real to you, all right? Let's see, before that, I want to tell you that on that day, on the day that Nipsey Hussle was murdered, I saw a truck cut me off because I was driving to work. I know I'm throwing a lot of details at you, and see, that's the problem with my storytelling skills at this point. I want to it's a data dump. I told this story to Michael Collier, the comedian, a few years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago. I think it's been 2. I'm not sure when it was. But I was trying to tell Michael Collier this story, and he said, man, your story's boring and it's a data dump. You're just giving me too much data, too much information. I thought that with time and with practice, I would be able to improve my story, but hey, it is what it is. Now, the thing about telling the story now and practicing it right now is that there's no one here for me to talk to. This is an empty classroom, so I'm just data dumping, just as he said. All right, but anyway, back to the story. The day that Nipsey Hussle was murdered, there was a truck that cut me off, and the truck's license plate was 1090. All right, and these are details that I remember. Okay, and so within a short period of time, within 1 week, I learned of Nipsey Hussle's murder. A truck cut me off. I saw the license plate. It read 109, and then shortly thereafter, I looked into the sky and I saw a cross. Okay, so these 3 elements here stuck in my mind because I was hurt when I learned of Nipsey Hussle's murder. These are 3 things that I saw that were very important to me because Nipsey Hussle was my hero. I mean, I've always found, my heroes to be rappers and entertainers. Basketball players, not so much. I mean, although Michael Jordan is certainly a hero, Kobe Bryant too. But sports, I hadn't really gravitated toward the sports. More so rap and hip hop, gangster rap, Ice Cube, DJ Quick. Even today, a hero of mine, Kendrick Lamar. These men are able to express themselves so well over beats and rhythms, and that I find fascinating. I can't do that myself. I've tried. I haven't been successful at it. I need some more work. But anyhow, Nipsey Hussle was a hero of mine. He hadn't always been, because I knew his story, and what I knew of his story, being a Rolling 60s Crip, a gang member in Los Angeles, I knew that to be a dangerous story, a dangerous lifestyle. So although I recall going to the Crenshaw and Slauson strip mall many years ago, where I got my hair cut there at one time, even at that time I knew, hey, just get in, get your hair cut, get out of there. Don't stay there, don't linger, don't hang around that part. It's dangerous. I already knew, what was up. But anyway, so Nipsey Hussle was a hero of mine, only because I saw that what he was doing as positive, and I thought, man, he's doing some great things, and I should support him. So finally, in 2018, I finally did support him, and by 2018, I was like rah rah, for Nipsey, and then sadly a year later he's murdered. But I was a fan, and I recall that same week, of his murder. 1 week prior, I was reading that article in Forbes magazine about his successes, and I was all for the guy because he was a hometown hero. He was a Los Angeles native who was on his way to becoming a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire, like Jay-Z. And I thought, man, this is commendable. This is outstanding. And, forget, what other baggage comes along, with his affiliation with the gangs. His story is one that we should, embrace. And so I embraced his story by 2018. It took some time, again, because of the gang element. So he was a hero. So it was very clear in my mind. It was Nipsey Hussle. Very clear in my mind. It was the license plate 109, because this is an illusion. 109, that's my birthday. Isn't that amazing? There one thing I will say about the truck that cut me off this day is that there weren't hundreds of cars on the road for there to have been a reason for him to cut me off, and there weren't a number of cars for me to choose from to say, oh, that car doesn't have my birthday on its license plate. That car doesn't.
Good morning, Dorsey family. This is Miss Long, your testing coordinator.
All right. So as I was saying, we had the school. The school gave an announcement. So we're about 10 minutes into this discussion. I haven't finished. I've only just begun. Okay. All right. So we have here the truck. My birthday. I mean, that's amazing that this one truck. You see, the point I want to make, the point I want to stress is there was only one truck on the road, only one truck, and my car. I was in the desert. There's no traffic like we imagine there or that we experience in Los Angeles. In the desert, in this desert town, there's no traffic like this. Okay, so there was this one car, and surprisingly, miraculously, it had those numbers that are so familiar to me, 109. Excuse me. The thing about these numbers also is that I looked into the statistics. Okay, in the desert of Oman, that's the name of the country where I was, Oman. I didn't tell you that prior. They have about 4 digits, and then they have some Arabic letters. It's a Middle Eastern country. 4 digits right? And then they have some letters, so alphanumeric. And so if you look at the statistics, I think it's about a 1%. I think it's between 1 and 10%. This is where my lack of preparation comes in. It's a small percentage of license plates that begin with the number 1, right? And in particular, the license plate 1090, I mean, it has probably less, or about a 1% or less than 1% chance of finding that license plate. Now, again, I wasn't looking for this license plate. It was there where I was, in that moment. So the whole statistical rationale for how probable, how likely this was for me to encounter this, and it's pretty astonishing because it's basically extremely rare, and it's just like, it's a miracle. How did this happen? How was I there when this car was there? How did that car, strike me and make me, see that its license plate alluded to or was very reminiscent to me, because those numbers meant something to me before that, that truck cut me off. Anyhow, the third element is the cross, right? The cross in the sky. It was about 5 days. I looked at it, it was about 5 days. I initially thought it was about 7 days, but it was within 7 days. It was within the week that Nipsey Hussle was murdered that I saw that cross. Now, the reason why I want to point out these 3 elements is because that week, these were 3 things that were made clear to me, and that was in 2019. I came back to Los Angeles in 2019. I no longer worked at that school. They let me go. And let's see, I have to look at it to be very clear as to when this occurred. I think it said 4 years ago, so maybe it was 2019, late in 2019. I think it was 2019, probably around September, October, maybe November or December, I'm not sure. But there is a Nipsey Hussle mural at the Crete Academy on Crenshaw. Crete Academy, and you can see that Nipsey Hussle, his image was painted on their basketball court. All right, so that's a correlation right there. There's number 1. It's next to the apartment building, address 6109 Crenshaw Boulevard. So there's 109 right there. Nipsey Hussle, a mural. 109 in the address of the apartment just next door. And then finally, the Crete Academy, where the Nipsey Hussle mural is located, it has a cross. It's a religious school. It's a parochial school, okay? It's a school where religion and education are combined, right? You can see a cross displayed out there. This is on Crenshaw Boulevard at the Crete Academy, where you can see basically those 3 things, those 3 elements that I saw when I was in the desert. Okay? Now, let me talk a little bit about 109. It's my birthday. I've been talking about this since 2019, but the reason why I've been talking about it so passionately, so fervently since 2019 is because I guess since 2007, I've had these moments where I've encountered these numbers and they resonated with me because these numbers are an allusion to my birthday, 10/9 or October 9th. So I've got 16 years of moments in my life where these numbers just stood out to me, and it was in 2019. I told my colleague, who happened to be from India, I told him, hey man, I've been seeing these numbers for the last 10 plus years, and I don't understand why or what they mean. And he simply said to me, go to Google, ask Google what these numbers mean. And in all of those years, up until 2019, I had never even thought of going to Google to ask Google what these numbers 109 mean, because I always knew that these numbers were an allusion to my birthday. So I just accepted that as the explanation as to why I keep seeing those numbers, or as to why I keep fixating on these numbers. It's my birthday. Of course I'm gonna think about those numbers, or I'm gonna have some, have something, But anyhow, so I saw those numbers, and let me give you some examples of how I saw these numbers. One day I walked into a motel room, and the satellite dish for the television had the numbers 109 on that dish. I didn't ask to be assigned to that specific motel room. It was assigned to me, and there, as soon as I walked in, I saw 109 on the television, on the satellite dish. It wasn't the channel, it was the signal. That was the signal, okay? Let's see. Let me tell another story, something that happened recently. I can go back and I can tell you moments where I checked my watch at 1:09, or I checked my watch at 10:09. And for me, these always were references to 109. And over the years, I kind of thought to myself, I'm trying to understand what these numbers, what 10:9 means. But all I was left with is the explanation of my birthday. But when I talked with my colleague from India, and he told me, look at Google, Google said it was an angel number. An angel number. And that made me feel pretty good, although the angel number, I discovered that every number is an angel number. Whatever I typed into Google, it told me, oh, that's an angel number. If you're seeing this number repeatedly, then it's a sign. And then they give you some fortune, right? Like a fortune cookie. It tells you, oh, some good things are going to happen to you, or you need to follow your path, and all of this kind of stuff. So it was nice to read about angel numbers, but at the same time, I wasn't satisfied with that answer until I started learning about the nation of gods and earths. Nation of gods and earths. And I went to them, or the 5 percenters. Whoops. I went to them because the thing about the 5 percenters is that in their explanation of numbers, the number 9 for them represents born, or they assign this qualitative value of born, or this word born. That's what the number 9 means. If you look at, if you study numerology, they'll tell you that numbers mean certain things. So what I'm saying is, when I learned about what the nation of gods and earths believe the number 9 to mean, when I learned what it meant to them, then I had a relationship. I wanted to develop my relationship to the nation of gods and earths, because I felt as if they understood what I was going through. Because what I was going through was, I was seeing the day on which I was born in numerical form, and they were basically telling me, yes, the day you were born. Unlike angel numbers that just said your number is special, follow your path, the angel number explanation didn't say anything about my birthday, but the nation of gods and earth, they did. They said born. For them, 109 is knowledge plus cipher, born. That's for 109. 1 is knowledge, 0 is knowledge plus cipher, and then 9 is born. So I really enjoyed learning about that, and I ran with it, and I did some discovery. I did some research into the nation of gods and earths to learn, more about their supreme mathematics and whatnot. This is another 10-minute lecture. Let's take a break for a moment here. All right, guys. So I'm going to try to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. My this camera is gonna die pretty quickly, so I'm gonna lose that. I want to talk to you about Basquiat and 109. Okay, yeah, I want to talk to you about Basquiat and 109, but specifically I want to talk to you, just tell you a few more instances. So when I moved to South Korea, I lived in South Korea for nearly 10 years, right? And I discovered that 10/9 is not only my birthday, but it's also the day on which the Koreans celebrate their language. So I use this as a message to say, study their language, learn to speak Korean, it's your destiny, right, kind of thing. And that's what I did. I studied the Korean language, so today I can speak some Korean. It's not part of my presentation, so I'll leave that part out. But I guess I'll say, 네, 한국말 조금 할 줄 알아요. Okay? So imagine that. You travel halfway around the globe and then you discover that your birthday is a national holiday on which they celebrate their language. Like, wow, okay. So that meant to me I'm in the right country, because at least on my birthday it was a national holiday, so I could relax. I didn't have to go to work, right? So that was pretty cool. So 10/9. Then, you know, yeah. Then I went to Japan, and I went to Japan and I noticed that they have Japan has a, what is it called? It's called a mall. There's a fashion mall in Japan, and it's called 109. The Japanese read it as Shibuya Ichi Maru Kyu, but it is still 109. So when I went to Japan and I saw this building with the numbers 109 there, I felt very comfortable, very much at home. I thought, wow, they're welcoming me. It's a sign, right? Kind of some hippie kind of stuff. Far out, man. Synchronicity. Whoa. But yes, that's what my story is about. It's about synchronicity. It's about these coincidences. It's about numerology, you know? But Japan, there it was. It was there. Recently, I went to Ireland. I sat down, I had a meal, and after my meal, they brought me a receipt. And the receipt was receipt number 109. And then I was in Sweden, and I walked into the Nobel Peace Prize Museum, and when I entered there during the tour guide was speaking, and just behind her, I could see the numbers. I hope you can see it behind me, right over my shoulder. But as I'm speaking to you, just behind her, as I'm speaking to you, you can perhaps see over my shoulder, you know, as the tour guide was speaking to me, I could see over her shoulder, and I could see 109 on a document from 1934. Like, that's bizarre, right? And throughout the rest of the tour, I never saw any other numbers behind her, or, you know, any other numbers that really stood out, but there those numbers were. I'm like, wow, how'd that happen? So I'm talking about Sweden, Denmark. Well, excuse me, did I have a moment with 10/9 in Denmark? Yes, I was in Copenhagen, and when I was at the airport, the security guard said, go over and stand in this lane, in this line, in this aisle, through customs. I was walking, and I went over to that line, and he had me stand in aisle 9, and I could see 10 next to it. So it was 10, and then it was 9. So these things just keep happening. They keep happening. I didn't ask to be assigned to aisle 9. In fact, I kind of thought it was kind of racist, because a lot more of the fair, white, you know, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Europeans were going to lines number 12, 13, and others. And I saw a gentleman with his, a black man with his European wife, and the airport security ushered him and told him, you stand in row 9. And when I saw that, I was a few people behind, few passengers behind, standing in the line. I thought to myself, he's going to tell me, another black man, to go stand in that particular line. I don't have a rationale for why that happened, but those lines were numbered 10 and 9, and whew, that's what happened. So the point here, guys, is that there have been these moments that have really just stuck out in my mind where 10 and 9 have been there. One more story for you. I was in Ethiopia, and I'm so happy I had this moment in Ethiopia because my story would be, I'd be remiss. I'd lack a moment because my story connects with Ethiopia. And if I didn't have a 109 or a 10-9 moment in Ethiopia, then I really wouldn't have a story. I feel. I was going to the bathroom one day, and I was in Ethiopia at the museum. And when I went on my way to the bathroom, the door adjacent to the bathroom, someone had written the numbers 109 on that door. And I had no explanation for it because we were on the second floor. The door numbers were actually 201-202. There were offices behind that door. And so I was confused as to why 109 was written there. Wouldn't you be? But there they were again in Ethiopia. I have a friend who's in Ethiopia, and I contacted him and I asked him to go to that door, go to that museum, ask around, figure out why those numbers were written there. He later told me that a teacher wrote those numbers on that door because it was for a class that he was teaching, right? Something to that effect. So there was some reason, some rationale behind it. It had nothing to do with my birthday, but the fact that I saw 109 there and it was out of place, that stuck with me, resonated with me, and I kept that story. I collect these stories, as you can see. Another thing about this 109, incidents and seeing these numbers, and especially a door, that leads me to the door where the atomic bomb, where the scientists who discovered or who created the atomic bomb for the Manhattan Project, well, they had to meet at the address 109 East Palace. And that address is in New Mexico. And the reason why I know that and the reason why I memorized that fact is because I had seen that door in Ethiopia. And then some friends of mine, former colleagues of mine, went to New Mexico. They were traveling there, and they had seen the door at 109 East Palace. They had taken a picture of it, shared it on Facebook, and I saw it, and I said, hey, there's another 109. What the heck does that mean? Why did they put that there? They told me the story, and I understood why, or I understood the significance of that door to the story of Japan. So not only did Japan have a connection with 109 in regards to the shopping mall, but also 109 is the door behind which the Manhattan Project was developed. They're coming out with a movie about it, about Oppenheimer, the man who funded the Manhattan Project and whatnot. But the thing about it is this, folks. Just like I had been to Ethiopia, just like I have been to Aksum, just like I've been to Sweden, Denmark, Machu Picchu, Cuba, I had also been to, not New Mexico, never been in New Mexico, but I've also been to the cities where the atomic bomb was dropped, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So you see how I've been able to touch these locations that have some connection to 109. I'm finding ways of connecting 109 to my travels. So my travels just haven't been in vain. My travels have been a way of me to coalesce, to synergize, to bring together, to aggregate these experiences, to understand our world and to see, our planet from a very different, perspective than just, I'm traveling to take selfies in this city and that city. All right. I wanted to tell you about Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat, and I think my camera's going to die in any minute now. So I'm going to tell you, I was watching a documentary about Jean-Michel Basquiat. He's one of my favorite artists. Jean-Michel Basquiat painted, or he wrote the number 109 in his painting. Now, here's how I found that painting. I was watching the documentary, and at 11:09, about 11:09, it may have been 11:08, when that painting came across the screen on that documentary, I saw 109. I grabbed my phone to take a picture of it, to share it on Facebook, to talk about it. Hey, look, I found 109 in my favorite artist's painting. That's my number, that's my birthday, blah, 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 blah. When I noticed that I was making that post at 11:09 p.m. Now that's one of those moments that really helps me tell this story, because it puts together all of this stuff that I'm talking about. Like, I'm talking about synchronicity, and this was a hugely synchronous moment to find 109 and to also see 109 in the time at which I found it. 2 days ago, this happened to my aunt. I've told my aunt about these stories about my 109 and what 10-9 means to me, and my aunt went to a meeting, and she was there to meet a gentleman at the address of 109 something. And she thought about me. She said, hey, that's interesting. I'm meeting someone at this address at 109 blah, 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 ABC Street or what have you. And when she realized that she was going to that address, she told me that she had checked her watch or her clock it was 10:09. She said, oh my gosh, look at what happened. 109 at 10:09. Now, 10:09 is still 10-9, because it's still just, that's the number 10, and this is the number just 0 and 9. Well, that's just 9. So 10-9, it's a little different way of writing it, but it's the same. So this is what the story is about. While I have this camera still rolling, I'm going to tell you why this all is important. It's not important because it's my birthday. That's only the surface level. That's level 1. But level 2 is because 109 is the number of a teacher by India's. I came away with that interpretation because of the mala bead necklace. I'm not wearing it today, but the mala bead necklace has 109 beads on it. They're used for meditating. And the thing about it is 109, you see, there's one bead that is there to connect all of the other beads, but there are 108. There are 108 beads that are used to pray. And I just lost the other camera over here, so I'm going to talk to you here. There are 108 beads that are special, and in fact, the Indians believe that 108 is a sacred number. Now, but I've been talking about 109 all of this time, and my store is called iSee109. Yes, well, that's because, kind of like what Google tells me, 109 is a calling. It's my job to express, the importance of these numbers, but it's really important for me to talk about the 108, the number 108. Okay, 109 is the number of the teacher. It's the 9th bead. It's the bead that connects all of the other beads. And being a connector like that is they call it the guru bead. And a guru is one who brings enlightenment, one who shares knowledge and information. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm sharing this information with you. So that's my role as 109. But in that vein, my goal is to teach you about 108. 108. All right? I guess I'm going to stop here because 108 requires me to delve into some new information. But if you've learned anything from this discussion, that's because I've been true to my role in all of this, and that is to be a teacher. Okay? So thank you for listening and watching. We'll get back to 108 later. But go and buy my story. That's what you need to do. A call to action right now. Go to iSee109 or iSee109.store and buy this story today. All right. I am 109 and I approve this message. Peace and blessings.